All right. Well, hello, dads. Um, my name is Tom Ledbetter, and I am a friend of Lisa Max, and she reached out and asked me to join into this collaboration to encourage you as fathers, and honored to jump on here today and be able to encourage you from my own story and process as becoming a father, learning how to really become a son, and how just all that just entails, and how we're learning every day. And that's the beauty of living in the spirit, is we're always learning, we're always leaning in. And yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit about that today, and what that looks like in our life and what it has looked like. And um, just pray for you. So, Father, I just thank you for this time today. Thank you for meaning every single one of these fathers, that you are an excellent father, and you father us as sons, and sons that learn how to become fathers as you father us. That you are our ultimate, you are our picture, you are our model. And Christ, you came to reveal the Father. And God, I just thank you that there's a father in every single man that you want to mature and you want to mold out. I like to think of, there was I believe it was a great sculptor. I forget which one it was, but someone asked him how he created the beautiful sculpting of the Lord, and he said he saw where others saw a stone, he saw an object, or he saw something, and he began to set it free, began to cut upon the rock and call forth a thing inside of that rock, which ultimately became that beautiful sculpture. And my story is very much a story of the Father doing that in my life. I grew up very much with in a house of much passivity and lots of depression. My mom was on antidepressant medication pretty much her entire life, and slept much of the time. Was just always battling depression, and tried to take her life multiple times. My father was a functional alcoholic. He was, I would say, he was clinically depressed, but all that to say that I grew up in a very much an atmosphere that was not conducive to really seeing what it looked like to have a functional, stable household that had that had the things that we all desire to have. And that's my story. My testimony is that God came into that reality. And I still remember it today, where one of the greatest fears I had as a young boy growing up was that I would not be able to be a father. That I would, and I just began to realize this, in the last 15 years of my life, that is not a normal, like, something that a kid really wrestles with. And I began to realize, wow, these were seeds, these that were begin that the enemy was trying to keep me from having these fears. And I began to realize these were not only my fears; these were my ultimately the fears that were being hallowed into the voice of my Father. And God took me on a journey, and He said, "Where you've not been fathered, I'm going to father you, and I'm going to teach you to father others." Now, at this time, my wife and I had come to the Lord in 2007. It's now, we're now 2023. That's years later. But God has fathered, my wife. He's fathered me. And one of the greatest things that He's done in my life to do that was, where it did not have a model of father. He said, "I'm going to father you, and I'm going to teach you to father other people." And so He has just revealed Himself as this incredible father. And my wife and I, our story of our son is, he's 8 years old. We both grew up in extremely dysfunctional homes, and the Lord has brought us out of so many different things of rejection, abandonment. The overwhelming voice that we can't do this and we can't do that. And so we've been first generational And 8 years later, after we've contended for a child, we were barren, we could not have kids. We would continue to have prophet after prophet come in our life and say, "You're going to have a son, and you're to name him Nathan, and this is who he's going to be." And we began to realize that we were contending for something in our life that was much greater than ourselves, and God had invited us into this process of believing Him for a child. And 8 years later, we're pregnant. We tried for many years, and it took 8 years to have a child. And I remember when we got pregnant, we put this sign up in his room, and it talks about, "Behold, children are heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but shall speak with their enemies in the gates." And, I'll never forget putting his name on that sign. And, the moment that he was born, I realized was a marking moment in my life when I saw him being born, that I realized God had prepared me to be a father. He had prepared me to be a dad. I now had no idea what that looked like. But he basically said, "You were ready for this." And the joys of it, the mysteries of just getting the trial and error, realizing there's no map, there's no to-do list. But some things that I have learned in this journey of being a dad is the joy of just the moments that we have with our kids, making those moments count, realizing what matters in these moments. There are three things that I'll somewhat talk about briefly, but the affection, the affection that we show our kids, the hugs, the kisses, the touching our kids as dads. Like there's something about being a dad and looking our kids in the eye and confessing when we make mistakes and apologizing to them, coming down to their level, showing them affection, I think is so important. That they are emotionally, that they get to cry, they get to learn how to work things out, that we don't shut that down, we don't stomp that out. Because what happens is the Lord begins to train us probably more so in that than He does with them. Today we were doing some homeschool work, and we were talking about different types of completed sentences, in the homework, and we were putting three little grids there, and there wasn't a lot of room, but I made these three little grids where he could write stuff into each grid, like the who of the sentence, the noun of the sentence, destination of the sentence. And I realized when he was writing stuff in the midst of those little areas, he was squeezing everything in there to fit it perfectly. And I realized, wow, I can have that. That could be a really powerful thing to frame something, but it also can limit. And I'm just like, wow, what a privilege, but what a responsibility we have. How are we framing? How are we like connecting and affectionately with our kids? Like if that was going to frame their life, how much more intentional would we be about telling them we love them, telling them what a great job they did, encouraging them, always affirming them. We give affection, we affirm them. Hey, keep going, don't give up. It's something we're working on right now in our house, is just to that, hey, like failure is just imminent in life, but it doesn't have to be our story. Like we're always going to get better. We're going to practice, we're going to learn how to work through things when they get hard. We're not going to give up, we're going to keep going. And modeling that in the day-to-day communication with your kids. And and the last thing I'll say is the acceptance. Always knowing that as a dad, that our kids are accepted, that we accept them. We may not approve of things, but we accept them wholly, and that we champion their process, as Father champions us. So These are things that I'm learning as a dad, that really is being fathered by the Father, and we're getting to emulate that in our kids' lives. Is the importance of affection, the importance of affirmation, the importance of acceptance. And so I just want to encourage all of you dads today out there that, um, you know, it's really important that we can model that affections with our kids, that we can get on their level, that we can connect with them, with our heart. We can trust them with our heart, and if we share it with them, that um, you know opening up with them is going to invite them into such such a such a journey. And so how can you open up to your kids, invite them into your process, and invite them into your journey. That's something that I've just learned as the Father's fathering me. He's also teaching me that I'm getting to model that in my son, and that leads me to loving him, showing him affection, showing him affirmation, and always showing him acceptance. So God bless you guys, and God has created you to be amazing fathers. We've never are going to reach the mark where we are a perfect father. There's no such thing as a perfect father, but Scripture tells us that if your earthly father loves you, how much more so does your heavenly Father? And so, last thing I'll say is, you know, realizing that we're not the mark, on our kids, but yet we will leave a mark. And if we allow God to define that, we allow God to work through us to father our kids, is we're facilitators, we're stewards, then it just lets the pressure come off that God is an amazing Father, and just the realization we are being fathered as we are learning to father our children. And so I pray that helps you, pray that encourages you, and I hope you have a great day.